everyone! Welcome back to the RationalInvestor.com's Broiler Chicken Show! Back! Hello! Welcome back to the silliness, the frivolity. Never a dull moment around good old markets, especially around crypto. And also a lot of fun around the TRI site. It is the dog days of summer now, sort of into the middle of July. Actually, maybe more August is dog days, but with that monster heat wave that we had here about a week or two ago, I think the summer of 2001 has been officially kicked off a bit early. But holy frijoles. And actually it's interesting because now I'm hearing lots and lots of talk about the system moving east, and that's usually what happens with the weather. So if you ever hear me bitching and complaining about the weather here in BC, just wait a week or two and you guys are going to be having it back east. And sure enough, now I'm hearing a lot of people talking back east about the heat wave hitting them now. So I mean, what do you say? Drink lots of water and maybe invest in an air conditioner. I'm just a little late when it's going crazy. If anything, probably further demand for natural gas, coal-fired electricity plants. Gonna be going crazy. Greta's gonna be having a great old time, loving the amount of coal being dumped into the atmosphere to make sure all those air conditioners are running. And if anything, that's probably what our life is going to be like over the next 50, 100 years. I wouldn't even be surprised by the time I'm dead that actually there's weather advisories in the summertime that actually you're probably not even allowed to go outside. I know, for instance, my grandmother fought in the Second World War, and she was sent off to North Africa to fight Rommel in the desert. And she was a nurse, and they used to have to do all of their work in the early morning and late afternoon, early evenings. And actually during midday, they just shut everything down. It was just too hot to do anything in the desert. So we might actually be transitioning into more of a world like that. Wouldn't surprise me. It sure would be nice if we could figure out how to do like desalinization plants. So and people are saying, because Dubai, she was sent to North Africa. So all along there, Dubai, North Africa, that would be about the same weather, right? So. Us in the northern hemisphere, as we're sort of, we were a bit lucky that as the Earth is sort of drying out, that band of livable space is moving more and more and more north. You know, the irony of it all, I keep telling people, they've found dinosaur bones in northern Alberta. I mean, think about that. I mean, do I need to show you a map of northern Alberta? It's a long way up there. Northern Alberta. Where the hell? I mean, most people, I bet you half of you Americans, you don't even know where the hell northern Alberta is. But it is a long way up there. This DuckDuckGo kills me. I don't know whether if I can show you this or not. Yeah, Edmonton's not even northern Alberta. I mean, northern Alberta, it goes all... I mean, that's funny that they say Edmonton is northern Alberta. Northern Alberta is up here. So they've actually found tons and tons of, like, Tyrannosaurus Rex dinosaur bones up here. Now remember... dinosaurs are lizards. They can't live in the snow. They don't do very well in the snow. I don't know whether you've ever been to northern Alberta in the middle of January, but it's not a very warm place. There's no way in hell dinosaurs would ever be able to survive up there. So, if anything, it's just such a great analogy that And this is the worst part about capitalism, is that the capitalists are going to come up with a narrative to get you to spend your money. And the worst part about it is that the capitalists know that people like Greta are they're very malleable. They're very susceptible. They're very impressionable. So, she did, bless Greta's heart, she's just a little girl. She doesn't understand how evil these human beings are. Guys like the Koch brothers. That's the irony of it all. You think that they're the big bad 1%. They're the ones that made the biggest fortune out of all of this environmental movement because they own the solar panel manufacturers. And, oh, by the way, they are horribly, environmentally unfriendly in the solar panel manufacturing industry. But, we won't mention that. And then, of course, this is the worst part about it. Governments actually pay these massive contracts for these politically correct movements, right? A democratically elected politician, we're going to go spend $1 billion on green technology. Hey, great. Buys tons of votes, and Greta, of course, loves the guy, and Greta's going to be out there campaigning for him, and he loves it. The day he's elected, do you think he really gives a flying flute what happens afterward? And, like I said there a moment ago, that there are places in California, and it's criminal. There are these huge solar panel valleys. These solar panels are horrendously environmentally unfriendly to make, by the way. And then, of course, they sit there and they're just solar panels rusting in the desert after they're not used. And they're just sitting there completely rusting to pieces. The most incredibly environmentally unfriendly thing possible. The local groundwater is going to be completely polluted. This stuff is just going to sit there out in the desert and just do nothing. And of course, the amount of energy that was actually put into creating these solar panels and stuff, it's a total wash when it comes to being environmental. So, I do find it amusing that we are going through climate change. There's no doubt about it. I think as a human being, you have to understand that this existence is all about nothing stays the same. That's really what this existence is all about. And we seem to move on these crazy circles. In fact, actually in our level 3 class, we just did trading seasonality. So, of course, that was all about cycles. And if anything, I love teaching the class because it forces me to come back and do a full circle on topics about once a year or once a quarter. I haven't taught the level 1 and level 2 program for a while, so I'm kind of getting out of touch. Somebody was asking me questions about GAN the other day, and I was kind of like, oh, fuck, I've forgotten how to do that. Because there's some parts of GAN that are incredibly complex. Like if you're doing things like the hexagon, and I called it the octagon, and people are like, isn't it the hexagon? I'm like, yeah, I forgot, Anyway, and looking at the top of Saturn and trying to figure out what the angular momentum of all that is and stuff, the storms. But we just did in the level 3 class, it's one of the modules, I still teach a third of the class, and actually I'm going to be slowly sliding myself out of that anyway. But this past week, we just did cycles. And of course, like I said, here are just a few of the cycles that we have to worry about on a regular basis in the marketplace. Are we, and specifically the module that we did just on Saturday with the level 3ers is all about seasonal forces. Things like tax policy, fiscal policy. I suppose like tax refunds and payment dates, but also governments acting crowding out industry based on their fiscal year ends, but also too thinking about things like the consumer behavioral cycle through the year, Christmas, retail pump up, manufactured, Hallmark holidays, how that drives industry. But also, too, we have to understand that there are things like the business cycle, and then the economic cycle, and then the demographic cycle, and then the interest rate cycle, and it just keeps going on and on and on and on. It's just like big circles. And the sad part about for our society and our reality right now, this is just what it is, and we have to get through it, and hopefully we do survive. I mean, just imagine. Can you just imagine? Just, maybe think about this. When you're thinking about climate change and you're thinking about global warming, think about this image just for a moment. About 14,000 years ago, there was an asteroid, or maybe a comet, that was basically headed straight towards the planet Earth, and there was nothing anybody on this planet could do about it. And they probably saw, and they could calculate the trajectory of the asteroid and the comet and whatever over many years. And of course, we have a flood myth and all that's actually what sort of came out the other side of that. So just imagine if that was your reality, where every day you woke up and you saw this little ball of fire in the sky getting a little bigger every day, and you knew the end of the world was coming. I mean, now that's a shitty existence. And I might make the argument that the whole reason why things like the Sphinx was built, the whole reason why the pyramids were built, was just simply as a landmarker because they knew the end of the world was coming. And they just wanted somehow to mark that, hey, we were here. That's the irony of it all, is that we're so wrapped up in our short term that we don't even really look at the history of this planet and understand that this planet goes through some pretty damn big geological shit about once every 10, 20,000 years. And it's kind of funny, there's one guy on YouTube, and he actually walked through that over the past 250,000 years of human life, that you can see that there's just about every 20,000 years just one massive reset that happens. So you can get wrapped up in the global warming and the climate change. Thank you, Frederico. Frederico says the guy's name's Andrew. You got a link for that? If you got a link for that handy, that would be so cool. Yeah, there you go. So Alex just threw on the Younger Dryas. This is, in essence, the worst part about it is that people like Greta, they do not want you to see this image. This image is actually almost like poison to them. And anybody, the Koch brothers and shit that wants you to buy into this global warming kind of, it's all human made. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think there is a huge portion of it that is helped by the humans. But I would make the argument that it's just a simple function that we're cutting all the goddamn trees down. Stop cutting the fucking trees down. So, and the worst part about it theesn't matter what Greta says. They're not going to stop cutting the trees down. So we're screwed anyway. The sad part about it is, like there's songs. What I like to play songs before I launch the video here this morning. But one song I always love to play is, how does it go? Pave paradise and put up a parking lot. I mean, for God's sakes, you really want to try and reverse this global warming shit. Just stop cutting the goddamn trees down. But they're not. Right, so I don't think it's a good idea to get wrapped up in the politics of this. And poor little Greta, I think she's being played like a deck of cards, and she's being played by the politicians. Another good example is the guy, this Fink guy, Larry Fink, who owns the Black Rock Capital. Turns out he's one of the biggest shareholders in these alternative fuel stock cars. So what a surprise! He's fucking just pounding the message about how evil oil is. Why? Well, because it serves his own personal vested interest. And that's the one thing I absolutely hate about this species. Nobody seems to come out and just talk to you. Look at, I'm going to just lay my cards down. Like, why doesn't Klaus come out and say, here's my balance sheet? This is the companies that I'm invested in. This is the countries that I own their country bonds from. And just be a completely open balance sheet. Or, Charlie over there talking about how we desperately need a global reset. Well, why don't you put your money where your mouth is? Go and create like a $10 billion global relief fund with mummies' crown jewels that just sit there and do nothing and collect dust, by the way. Why don't we actually put that capital to use? So, don't kid yourself. Most of the message that you hear out of our society is purely driven because people have a vested interest in getting you to act emotionally one way or the other. And the worst part about it, like I'm saying here right now, is that we know, Shane and all his celestial buddies told us that we have like 6 or 7 of all of these massive cycles all coming to a head, all in this like 2 or 3 year window period. The shit is literally hitting the fan. I hope we all make it through this. I hope we all keep a level head. I do believe that people are using the emotional experience to jack their own personal vested interests. And also, too, what really bothers me is I think that not so much people like Jerome Powell or Grandma, what's Grandma's name? Yellen. I actually think that those people they're so deep in the muck right now, and they're just trying to keep the system going, that I don't think they see the forest through the trees. But people like Joey Diamond, and keep in mind that Jerome Powell and Grandma Yellen, they work for Joey Diamond. And we all need to remind ourselves that simple fact. You see guys like Joey Diamond in the media and you go, oh, what a handsome guy, and he wouldn't be really evil and mean. And he uses people like Powell, and he uses people like Yellen, and frankly speaking, he uses the democratically elected politicians that really aren't democratically elected. You're given a very, very fine choice. You either take A or B. It's your choice, but basically both candidates are owned by the system. He's the guy that actually we should be all upset about. And the irony of it all is he walks away totally scot-free. It's actually a great similarity to this is kind of like what happened with Mr. Musk and this stupid crypto run-up, where the guys you should be really angry at are the people that pumped up this whole market to get the Coinbase IPO done. And just a staggering amount of capital was transitioned from the public's hands into the private's hands through the issuance of that stock. And then once that event happened, everything just collapsed right out of the market. But where do we focus our anger? We focus on Allen. And I think Allen, and frankly speaking, I get the impression Allen was told to be the scapegoat, and I think, and a total conjecture, of course, but I think here's some big fat NASA contracts, here's some nice free funding, you go and be a nice distraction for the crypto kids and let us get away with this highway robbery on the Coinbase IPO, and we'll call it a day. Anyway, that's what I think's happening here. I gotta tell you, I'm pretty disappointed in this species. In that, what we really should be is we should be going, holy fuck, we got like about 6 or 7 of these celestial cycles, and think of, the celestial cycles as kind of thing like the sickness cycle. Every 100 years, if you go back in human history, every 100 years we seem to have one of these things they call the plague, right? And some centuries are worse than others. So really, what's happening is not really out of the ordinary. It's just, of course, the 1% will tout it up, and what's worse is the 1% probably says, these sicknesses need to happen. They're actually a function of Mother Nature. But let's see if we can get the people really jazzed, and let's see if we can actually get some hate on. Let's see if we can actually maybe even generate a war through this, and let's see if we can start pointing fingers and say, hey, it's their fault. No, it's their fault. And hey, I own this media outlet, so I'm going to get my puppets to say it's their fault. You guys, you own that media outlet. Okay, so you guys get your media puppets to point the fingers this direction. And we can get the public to actually believe that we all are at war and we should start murdering each other. Because what the hell? Murder's really good for business. Whew, wow, there's a rant. Didn't see that coming. The irony of it all is probably all of you did see it coming. Went, okay, so the first 10, 20 minutes of this thing, probably tune him out. He's going to go off on some fucking crazy tangent. Anyway, as my hero would once said, Mr. Rodney King, why can't we all just get along? Huh? Look out for each other. And, the great part about, and, this is where we come around full circle to trading. The one beautiful part, and I even said it in one of my rants to the site. I don't know whether it was on a public broadcast or not, but I went off on a tangent one day. But there was a little piece of it that I said, and I was so proud of myself, and I was so impressed. I hope you all understand. I couldn't give a fuck what sex you are, male, female. You want to call yourself a houseplant? Fine. You want to be both male and female at the same time? Okay. If it works for you, do it. I don't care. It makes no difference to me. I don't care what race you are. You can be, and you have to be careful even what words you use. Am I allowed to say the word black? Am I allowed to say the word white? I don't know. It doesn't really matter, though, at the end of the day. It really doesn't. Did see somebody over the weekend, and it was kind of bothering me. Somebody went on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he said that based on genetics, certain races were predisposed to committing illegal activities, and I would definitely argue with that. That's I do not believe that that's the case. And the irony of it all is, you might even point the fingers right back at this guy. This guy was a white guy, and say, this Caucasian race, they're pretty nasty motherfuckers. Maybe we should get rid of the Caucasians from the planet, and this world would actually be a lot friendlier place. But I don't really believe that races are predisposed to certain activities. That's I think they call it. They used to call that. They used to measure the width and the height of your skull. There was actually a whole science in it that how you were, what was going to happen based on your physiology. I don't believe in that shit. And ironically enough, I don't even believe age either. I've seen young kids get this trading stuff very quickly. Hey, just buy the damn W. What? Quit arguing. Just buy the W. There it is. And then if you see the market ebbing out, maybe better get the fuck out. Right? It's just that simple. It's not rocket science. But ironically enough, when it comes to capitalism, making money in the market, for some reason, people's opinions, man, and try and understand people. Your opinion doesn't mean anything, and it's probably actually going to undermine you. You really shouldn't have an opinion in this game. And that the sooner you realize that your opinion is pretty worthless, it's just an opinion, and it doesn't really equate to whether you're going to make or lose money in the marketplace, the sooner you realize that, the better off you are as a trader. And the guys that I really respect in this industry, they don't have an opinion. They're just following the chalk marks. And if the market does what I need it to do to set up a trade, and I see all the criteria, I take the trade. And it doesn't matter whether you're black, white, yellow, blue, green, old, young, male, female, houseplant. It doesn't make a difference. So I don't know how to approach this world. It's I'm also really worried too. For whatever it's worth, maybe I'll finish the rant at this. I'm worried that for some reason the 1% is kind of wanting us to believe that this particular sickness cycle is over. I mean, I'm going out into the public now. I'm not seeing anybody wearing masks anymore. That's stopped. I'm seeing large groups of people. In fact, Andrew and I, we walked the seawall the other day, and the pool was open. I mean, you want a great place to spread the flu virus? The public swimming pools are a pretty damn good place to do that. Why the hell are they doing that? It almost feels as though we're actually being set up to have another big round of this sickness. I was reading in the just on the rags that Russia just announced their highest sickness rates of this entire sickness. What the hell's going on here? Why are people saying that it's over? I mean, this is lunacy. So, and I'm also hearing too, which is really sad, but I'm also hearing too that a lot of these quote these very quickly developed vaccines across the world are actually turning out to be not very effective. In fact, I heard a story about a lady, I think it was in Asia. She was fully vaccinated, and she still got sick with these two separate variants of this virus. So theoretically, she's vaccinated, and she got hit by two different types of this virus hitting her, even though theoretically she was vaccinated. So what the hell? But I don't get why the 1% is lightening up here. That doesn't make any sense to me. If anything, if we were really, I mean, like, what doesn't make sense to me here? I live across the street. I had a beautiful view a few years ago, and here in Vancouver, and I believe that there is no local demand for all this real estate development that they're doing here in Vancouver. So clearly, the orders, the instructions are being sent from overseas. Now, is it from overseas in Europe? I don't think so. Is it overseas in Asia? Yes, I definitely think so. But, this entire sickness, they didn't shut down construction on these projects, not a single day. So what the fuck's going on with all that? So, I don't know. It's very suspicious, and I think that we just continually are being set up for failure here. And, my message to all of you is don't believe that we're out of the woods yet. In fact, and I've said this on these public shows, if you believe in the cycle idea, and I got to tell you, the longer if I have an epitaph, Kevin, if you know me after I've died, can you please put an image like this on my grave, please? To just try and remind people that everything moves in circles. Everything. What I'm really worried about is that I actually, if you think about how the money system cycle, which would be like this interest rate cycle, I was even showing on the level 3 class, because like I said, it was really cool that we did the seasonality module for the level 3ers, because it was very pertinent. Of course, how does the expression go? Let's see if anybody on YouTube even knows this. Buy when it snows, sell when it what? And I don't know, have you been hearing me talk about the weather in British Columbia? And now you guys back east, oh boy, you're going to get that weather too. But I thought it was just really interesting if we start playing connect the dots with these cycles. For the level 3 class, we were studying the fiat currency cycle. And it turns out that fiat currency cycles, they about once every 80, 90 years, they come up with a brand new fiat currency that they're going to try and basically use as a money sort of basis, and then they'll just keep diluting it out and taxing the system for the bankers' profits. You can basically see it's usually a good 80, 90 years. This one, they actually squeezed 110 years out of this particular one, but you can see on balance. So, and anybody who actually says that the U.S. dollar is going to make it through this in this current form, I think you're mistaken. I wouldn't be surprised if, very much like the way the British pound was sort of taken apart in the latter part of this century, probably the 21st century, the U.S. dollar and the sort of value of U.S. assets are taken down a peg, just it's almost identical to the way the British pound was through the following end of the Second World War. But one thing that really jumped out at me about this, and if you think about this, is that if you actually go back and do the math, like every 80 years, the years that end in twos seem to be very difficult. How are we gonna do this? Actually, this is a cool trade. This is what I do for fun on the weekends. I try and come up with cool new trading systems. So we had a gentleman who put together a script for me to follow my moving averages, and so now I finally got to the point where I could create it on my own, and so now I have multiple moving average systems all coinciding, and this is so cool because you can see like the bigger, higher time frame moving average systems turn up. And I'm going to add this to the site library. And so you can see, basically on this event, you want to hunt long. So that's a beautiful long entry all right up and through here. And they're here. And then look at that beautiful W. All right, let's get back on the long wagon, et cetera, and just ride this trend the whole damn way up. Super cool. Look at that signal in there. Oh, Nelly. Anyway, so I was having some fun with moving average systems over the weekend. That's what I was doing for fun. But that's not what I wanted to show you. What I wanted to show you was... I don't even know if we can do this. Well, maybe we can. I'll give it a shot. No, I don't think we can get a currency chart going back 100, 200 years, can we? No, that was kind of a waste of time. Sorry, everybody. What I wanted to try and show you was... the interesting thing about the US dollar, though, is are they going... Because keep in mind, this is an index. It's not actually like the actual US dollar itself. It is technically a basket of assets. And ironically enough, the basket itself is more valuable when this thing is going down. That's a terrible error. Let's try that better. The basket of assets like the euro and the Canadian dollar and the Australian dollar and all that, right? They're more valuable when this thing's going down, and they're less valuable when this thing is trending up. So what I'm simply suggesting, ironically enough, by me being US dollar bullish, is I'm actually suggesting that the rest of the world's assets are actually going to become less valuable on a relative basis. But I wouldn't be surprised if over the next year or two we actually find out that, remember, this is just a basket. Could they maybe throw in some Bitcoins into this basket to try and even it out? Why not? How about some Ethereums? Sure. Hell, how about some duck notes? Quack! I doubt it. But the point being that, if I say that I'm a US dollar currency index bull, actually what I'm really saying is I'm actually a bear of all the other currencies. Through this commodity cycle. And the worst part about it is they keep changing the damn symbols and shit, so you can't study this over a long time period. It drives you crazy. But, we look at something like the good old Canadian dollar. Well, the Canadian dollar, technically, I think you can make the argument that really, and again, these motherfuckers. I mean, why do they do that where we can't see the past 100 years data? I mean, you telling me the Canadian dollar was never around before 2000? I mean, fuck off. I hate that shit. I mean, it's so stupid. That's half the reason why these people got sucked into trading Forex. Is you can't get the data from the highly manipulated futures industry. Oh, look! Oh, wow! Even that's so much more helpful. Goes back to 1992. That's useless. Anyway. Point here is that this was actually a commodity cycle from the end of 2000 to 2020. This is actually the good time for Canada. And what's interesting, and like maybe you remember this, maybe you don't, but they took crude oil to $150 a barrel through this peak. So you can clearly see the influence on crude oil prices and grain prices and stuff like that on something like the Canadian dollar. And then 2008 financial crisis, all that kind of shit. All it really was just unwinding this just ridiculously stupid bull market that Junior Bush and all his cronies created. And the irony of all of this is actually like something for the Canadian dollar, believe it or not. I mean, it's just simply a function of commodities. If I could show you this chart going back, decades, you'd see it. But, the irony of it all is for something like the Canadian dollar is that was its heyday. That's as good as it gets for the Canadian dollar. And you can even see sort of the talk in the world. What do you think the net on demand, how do you say this? What do you think the growth prospects for using more crude oil in this world are, given the Gretas of the world? So, if I'm US dollar index bullish, it's really what I'm saying is that I'm actually pretty bearish of this thing. And the worst part about it for Canada is that, we had these high commodity prices up top here. The currency was getting bid up. If you are a true Keynesian economics fan, and that's, I think, what a lot of sort of MMT people kind of are, is they're really... They will use Keynesian economics to justify the MMT thinking. What they don't understand is that Keynes explicitly said that in good times, you must pay down the debt that the government incurs in bad times to offset the poor economic conditions. But through good economic times, what does this stupid country do? It goes into more debt. I mean, we had, I think it was, we had one right-wing politician, and right here, he actually paid down something like, I think it was like $50 billion in Canada long-term debt. Other than that, and even at that time, they were still running a budget deficit. How the fuck does that work? So they still had deficits through this. And what's so sad is through the 2000 bull, it's the same thing in the U.S. The growth cycle, baby boomers, U.S. economy booming, and the only time in my entire adult time period trading, U.S. government actually ran the smallest of budget surpluses right in here in 99, just as the economy was all ripping and roaring down in the States. So ironically enough, you can actually judge sort of the end of these moves by when these governments actually run budget surpluses. And this entire time, all through here, Canada has done nothing more but just added more debt, more debt, more debt, more debt, more debt. So what ends up happening is that next time we go through a bad cycle, we're already going to be up to our eyeballs in debt anyway. Where are you going to be able to come up with a new debt? Well, you won't. So the only solution is we got to dilute the purchasing power of the currency and make it cheaper. And this is basically how a lot of the South American economies went. You see the values of their currencies. It's laughable. It's identical the way the Russian currency went, right? As soon as Yeltsin defaulted, basically the currency collapsed. And, of course, what ends up happening is you basically go into a sort of mafioso-style society. And I think that's probably what we're going to degenerate to here in the West. We probably have to go through... it's funny, as I used to joke about this, but now I can see it more and more. That we're probably going to have to go through exactly the same reset that the Russian society just went through. You go to Russia, ask them, what was the past 20 years of your existence like? And I would imagine, on balance, most would be, there are even some people that were lamenting about the good old days of the communists. I think that's a minority. I don't think it's a majority, but nonetheless, I wouldn't be surprised in the West that we have to go through maybe a good 20-year period like that. It wouldn't surprise me one bit. But anyway, I digress. Okay, let's get on to topics we're supposed to be talking about today. Not quite sure why. I suppose that's half the reason why I'm not really that popular, is I end up just wasting time ranting about nothing endlessly. I don't know whether that helped you or not. But we are supposed to be talking to the level 1ers. They have been working away on price momentum signals. I'll tell you, this is a great opportunity to start learning about the market in here. What's the best way to do this, I wonder? Because, man, I was trying so hard to slow people down there. Actually, maybe we'll use that other window. We don't need to keep this. That's just a waste of time. BTC USD. Let's do that. In the spring, just try and don't chase. So if anything, now you're, anybody did take the level 1 course, you go, oh, gee whiz. I can see why I'm not supposed to chase. Sentiment in this space sure has changed pretty damn quickly, eh? Keep in mind that Coinbase IPO was basically the top of the market. I'm telling you, this fucking thing was completely finessed by the 1% here. Completely finessed. And yet, the sad part about it is nobody, and they did it so perfectly. Nobody's even considering it. You got away with a con job when not a single fucking person is even talking about it. Oh, look at this. So your call ends in 5 minutes. Upgrade to Google Workspace Individual to extend the call. You see that, Kevin? So I guess I was blabbing away for an hour. We're doing the YouTube page. It's just going to keep going. I think what I'll do is I'll just load another Google Meet. Actually, maybe... Kevin,
sorry, it is just because you must be on your personal Gmail.
But it's so bizarre. Look at the icon that I'm using here, though, eh? Like you see, it says TRI. But it doesn't matter. Can you maybe throw up a Google Meet and we'll just jump right over into the other one? What do you think?
Sure.
Is that doable?
Yeah, let me do it right now.
All right, thanks, man. Google, I get the impression that the days of cheap interneting and stuff like that, they're over. These telephone and these internet companies, they're going to grind us hard here. So, I remember for a long time you could place like free long-distance calls on Google. They got rid of that a while ago. Now all these sort of fun hangouts and stuff that we've been enjoying, they're going to monetize all this shit now. So anyway, I think what we'll do, you guys over on the YouTube page, you just hang out there. We'll probably do this pretty seamlessly, but Kevin's going to load up a new hangout. So if you're in the Google Hangout, maybe, let's see what it says here. Yeah, I'm going to hop and I'm going to go jump into Kevin's Hangout. So, good luck, everybody. I'll see everybody shortly. Doink. Hello. Hopefully we made that transition seamlessly.
Bunch of people popped in.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, man. God,
Sure.
everybody, it's be handy to have a Kevin in your back pocket. Sure makes life a lot easier. Thanks, man.
Sure.
All All right, so the YouTube page didn't really change at all there. Why didn't I go to Discord? Because that's not really what this is. I mean, hell, we could, I suppose technically we could do these calls on Rocket Chat. I know Rocket Chat has like a video conferencing function. We don't even really have to do the meet. It's just sort of a nice way I like where people can actually talk to me in real time. When you do the YouTube page, there's a delay there. So it's not really the best way to talk to you in real time. So that's why I have the Google Meet running. I like it because it just lets me interact with you guys like in real time. Okay, so let's, I suppose, get on with some content. If somebody wants to put in the comments, Beamish didn't really start talking about anything of value till about an hour in. That's fine by me. That's fine. I don't care. We did lots of cycle talk. Kind of cool to see Fjord and the dashboard really coming along here. I do like how the breadth indicator for the broader S&P index has been pointing up, and ironically enough, U.S. stocks keep just grinding higher. I don't really see any massive breakdown, and I suppose man, what's actually really interesting is we did have some killer short signals that came in on things like the Canadian banking sector. You know how much I hate the Canadian banking sector, so that doesn't surprise me. And those signals just worked out beautifully. I mean, absolutely incredible. If anything, I just need to get Fjord to automate all this, and man, the money we're going to be making is just insane. But this was a key reversal signal that came in off a Fjord system there. And look at that, eh? I mean, damn thing just breaking apart here. Just perfect. Absolutely perfect. So that looks awesome. If you do join the Hangout, do you think maybe you can just throw yourself on mute just in case? Maybe just check to see if you've got your microphone on. So, the crypto market itself, which is what you guys are probably most interested in, it's tried to turn back up here. I will say that, but it sure feels as though like it's got a lot of headwind. I would imagine there's still a lot of people still smarting themselves over the precipitous pump and then the violent dump here on the other side of this Coinbase IPO. And then, of course, like we said, I don't get it, and I also don't understand why more people aren't sort of saying, hey, shouldn't you be held to account for the, outlandish promotion, over-the-top promotion of this name, and then its subsequent collapse here. I don't understand why more people aren't angry about this. But I have a funny feeling that the people that are running the message that the media is sending out don't want this to be acknowledged. I think there are a lot of people in the public that lost a lot of money on this, and yet they're being silenced. It'd be interesting if there was actually somebody of net worth that actually did get hurt by this, whether the entire conversation would have been completely different. I have a feeling it would. The fact that it really is a real bummer that our media now is no longer independent, and that the news that we are sort of given that as news is not really news. It's what the 1%, the people who own these media outlets, want us to believe is actually the news, and that's very disturbing. So because of that, I honestly feel like I was going on about this earlier in the whole cycles thing. I don't think we're at the end of this shit yet. I think there's still another year or two of this fucking washing machine, them really fucking us over, ahead of us. I don't think we're done. What I will say is whether it be dog money or whether it be something like Bitcoin, just as cautionary on the way up, I think you also have to be cautionary on the way down about getting too bearish. So, the sentiment, of course, has changed dramatically to the downside. Maybe ask yourself, why are you in this to begin with? Hey, Annie. I mean, seriously, folks, ask yourself, why are you in this? Like, and if it's cryptocurrencies in particular that you're interested, why are you here to begin with? I mean, the irony of it all is, if you are actually in cryptocurrencies for the purity of cryptocurrencies, well, then what Alan did there actually is very anti-everything about what cryptocurrencies are all about. And, you know, the Coinbase IPO, that's very anti what cryptocurrencies are all about. And the irony of it all is that if DeFi plays out the way that it is, something like Coinbase might actually be a dinosaur. Might actually be yesterday's news. So maybe the 1% was just trying to suck as much money from this Coinbase thing as possible out of the machine and the beast while they still could. I don't know, it's tough to say. But if you're in this for the technology, well, then you don't actually, if anything, when you see this kind of makes you sick to your stomach. Because I can tell you, in that kind of environment, you're not going to get mass adoption. Anybody's running a business, there's no way they could use this as a viable alternative to something like fiat currencies to reconcile bills. I mean, you just can't. I've tried to do this in the years gone by. It just doesn't work. In fact, actually, when Innie was a student of mine, right, which I got them to pay for courses in Bitcoin. And, you know, one week, hey, I pulled in enough to pay rent and bills in Bitcoin. And all of a sudden you turn around and next week, oh, actually the Bitcoin just fell in half. So your whole revenue model is completely thrown out the window. Oops. And I believe that the 1% is doing this on purpose so that you don't switch to using Bitcoins. If you really wanted to use Bitcoin and the 1%, I think, knows this blatantly, then the one thing they have to do is remove the volatility from price. It's just so cliche how they run the price up and you guys all get all excited. Oh my God, this is so awesome. But it isn't. This is exactly what you do not want to see if you're like we got to move away from this fiat currency world and get to a world where we can at least trust these things that we use as currency units. This is blatant manipulation. It just is, folks. It just is. Somebody asked a question in the level 2 class about futures. And you said, Ewald says, we are learning about futures in level 2 now. Would this make the price more stable? I would say the futures, no. Because what ends up happening with the futures industry is they're relatively short duration contracts. So it's not like you're going to go out and just, and does it even make sense to lock in a futures contract for like 5 years from now? Probably not. But when the options come, that is when the volatility of price should come out. And one thing I noticed of late, which was kind of interesting, is they're dragging the heels on bringing the damn options market out, which I found interesting. And I think the reason why is because they know that there's just a little bit more juice to go here. But it was interesting on Deribit, for example. I remember Sebastian was telling us about how there were like $400,000 call options that were getting a lot of action on Deribit back here. So Deribit, unfortunately, is like illegal for Americans to participate on, isn't it? I believe that once the options market does come out, and you can have options on CME contracts, and there are ETFs, and there's options on ETFs, then the upside volatility is probably done. But the problem here is what I think's happening right now is we all know that the cost of production, don't kid yourself, you crypto kids, don't fucking kid yourself. You know what the cost of production is. You know what it is. So what is this? This is all of what they call, they call it quantitative analysis, or, momentum investing. And if you have a narrative that the sky is falling and that you need a conservative, safe haven to park your money, and you just don't know what value is in the marketplace, this story is beautiful. It played perfectly. But don't kid yourself. And this is what I don't understand about someone like that. A lot of people that will just go and buy Bitcoins in the marketplace at $50,000, $60,000. If you got that kind of money to go and blow on Bitcoin, why not go and buy a whole bunch of S19 miners and get them up and running? And there's your big fat profit margin instantly from literally day one of you getting the miners up and running. You got this monstrous profit margin. Something doesn't make sense to me. Why are these guys going and spending their money on Bitcoins? Am I missing something here? Then, there's a global chip shortage. No, there isn't. Stupid fucking hedge fund managers. This is going down to Oregon, right? I don't know whether, I'm looking out my window. I see a hell of a lot of trees. And, of course, you could go cut down trees to your heart's content if you want to. If you just go 20, 30 miles north of Vancouver City proper here. But there was a lumber shortage in the United States, and that's why the lumber prices went fucking crazy. There wasn't a lumber shortage. All the fucking hedge fund managers, they went up and bought up all the land, and Bill Gates has went and bought up all the land. The trees are just sitting there. It's just he's not going to let you touch his fucking tree. And the hedge fund guys, they're sitting there going, well, we're long lumber and it's in our inventory. And you go, well, we're kind of short of lumber in the marketplace. Can we go cut down some of your trees right there and give it? Fuck you! We want that price higher. Let's hold back more supply. So is it a convenient coincidence that this whole chip shortage conversation? Feels like it. Something just feels a little bit suspicious about all of this, to be honest with you. The irony of it all is that Stuart, and actually two guys. One guy is in the level 3 program, and this is what you have to learn. You want to make a fucking $1 million in this world, you got to come up with a half-decent idea. And 5 years ago, we loved the idea of the microprocessors and semiconductor manufacturers. We had one gentleman on the site, and he was in the goddamn education program right here. And he said, Brian, I love AMD. I want to buy AMD. I want to own all the AMD I can. And if that motherfucker had just done what he said he was going to do, the goddamn guy would be richer than shit. But the problem here is that he didn't do what he said he was going to do. I remember I had another gentleman that I work with. Same thing. He was super excited about the semiconductors. And we got all excited about NVIDIA back here. If he had just gone in and bought a whack of NVIDIA, it's the same damn thing. I mean, there's the market. So, yeah. I mean, you don't want to be chasing and looking for microprocessors now, but fuck, there was a long time when you were just giving this shit away. For nothing. Song and dance, right? What do we say? Longer the channel, the bigger the run. Actually, that's an interesting comment from YouTube. What the hell am I supposed to be doing here? See, here's the thing. Him Saha. I don't give a fuck. For 7 years. I mean, keep in mind, I've been trading forever. Right? I've been in this business forever. I looked after my wife, who was severely mentally ill, and then I had a severely disabled son, who I tried to look after to the best of my ability, and for 10 years, the two of them sucked the life out of me, to the point where basically the three of us were walking zombies. My wife, unfortunately, succumbed to her illness. My son, I had no choice. I mean, if you've ever dealt with low-functioning autistic children, it can get very, very, very ugly. And it actually was in his best interest to just say, look, I can't do this on my own. I need help. And when you do that in this world, the state makes you feel like an absolute piece of shit. So I had to eat a whole shitload of humble pie. But I've given the universe unequivocally basically the past 7 or 8 years of my life. I've made a bunch of money. I know the shit. I am the shit. The shit that I shit is the shit. You want to write that down? Ahem, why are you here? I'm here because this guy says his shit is the shit that is the shit. That's why you're here. And your job is to sit and listen, and about once every 20 minutes or so, I'm going to drop a value bomb on you that you will never hear anywhere else. And I couldn't give a shit whether you like me or not. You want to do a thumbs down and put some crappy comment? Go for it. I couldn't care. How much money am I making out of this video here, Ahem? Do you have any idea? 0. Nothing. I'm here because I like the sound of my own voice, and I'm trying to help you out. So that's why you're here. If you're here to hear some guy fucking shill you some idea that, hey, you're going to make $1 million, I don't need to do that. I'll go and fucking buy the thing myself, and I'll tell you when I'm selling. I'll be more than happy to brag about banging out doubles, banging out triples. I'm not going to tell you what to buy. I'll buy it myself. I don't care whether you buy or sell anything that I trade. I don't care. So why are you here? You're here because I'm not going to blow smoke up your ass. I'm actually going to try and tell you the truth about what our society is like and what's happening. We try and avoid all the sort of the things that are going to send algorithms, shit in their pants and stuff like that. As another person says here, you can say a lot about Brian, but he's no shit talker. I don't know. Anyway, what I am is I'm honest with you. I'm a real guy. I've made a lot of money trading. Millions now. I can actually say millionaire. So, I mean, ironically enough, in this world, I suppose that isn't much. But those 7 years going from absolute zero to million, that's not so bad. Actually, I'm pretty proud of myself. And the cool part about it is I've actually got a gentleman who I have an immense amount of respect for. He and I are going to grab a place together this fall, and we're going to build the ultimate trader's pit. We got the house all ready to go. Money's not a concern, and we'll do like the videos and stuff out of this place. Man, this place is gonna be so fucking cool. I'm so excited, Andrew. Oh man, we're gonna have so much fun. And this guy has got such good karma, and I've seen him work with other people, and other people have kind of taken advantage of him. So I'm like, fucking A, man, this is awesome. This is, because if there's one person that deserves it in this world, it's Andrew. He deserves this, and we are gonna. Our goal, and it's kind of a fun goal, but our goal, no, no politics, never. That's the only way I can keep this message, right? Because Bearded Day Crypto, or Beardy Day Crypto, and I'm supposed to be doing. I can't believe I've been talking for an hour and a half here and I haven't even said anything. This is why actually people are getting sick of me. So, okay, enough of this nonsense, and no, there's no way I'm ever going into politics. Never. So, it's just not going to happen. Let's get on with those questions, I'm supposed. So, this Amir or Amid or whatever your name was that asked, why the fuck am I listening to this guy? Theoretically, what we're supposed to be doing on Sundays here is we run an education program on the site, and it's asking students a lot to be able to in sort of like 90 days wrap your head around trading and running a business of trading, that I've put together a whole bunch of pre-recorded lectures. I've also have an instructor that meets with the students every Sunday, and we have 2 TAs that act as his support. So I'm obsessed with people feeling as though they get value when they come to TRI. I believe the price point that we charge, the amount of material that we have, the concept themselves, they work. It's just a question of clearly articulating the concepts and getting you to the point where you can actually do the concepts. And that's tough, don't get me wrong. So, big part of this show is when school is in, my job is to act as sort of a further support for students. And unfortunately, today I decided to rant there for about an hour and a half, completely wasting everybody's time. So my apologies. Let's try and, do some work here and make you feel as though at least this was time well spent. So, heading on into the questions. So, this looks like it's, I think this is the 11th of July. So I think this is today. So, unanswered question from last week. Would you consider this as a confirmed bullish divergence on the RSI? Or do you have to wait until the RSI is in oversold territory and then W out? It's close, but really all I care about is market structure when it comes to divergences. Doesn't necessarily have to be overbought or oversold. What I just want to simply see is higher highs and higher lows on RSI and lower highs and lower lows on price. So GRT, BTC. Now you're going to have to be careful if you're going to be studying assets like this, because this isn't really, the sad part about it is actually technically this isn't even real. It is a cross between 2 cryptocurrencies. And of course you get any volatility in the price and all hell can break loose. Geez, we don't have much data on this thing either, eh? I would probably, oh god, you don't have anything. Trying to get a half decent chart here just to look at, but now we have to, so none of these bigger exchanges have much data. We have to go over to like OKCoin. I bet you Huobi, they probably have a ton of data. No, not much there either. Is this thing new or something? It is a new coin. Oh, okay. All right, thanks, Frederick. So first and foremost, the most important thing I would say about this is you don't have that much data to actually do TA on, so be careful here. That could get a little dangerous. There's cute little W that seems to come in here. You had RSI on your chart there. It's not a bad idea that, and actually here you can see I already have it. Then you actually do a few momentum studies. Me personally, and of course you've taken the education program, so you should know this. And this was asked maybe last week before you did this module. I think did level 1ers, did they just do MACD? I think what week did you guys do? Yeah, MACD. All right. So the person who asked this question, this is why I like to use the MACD histogram, because there really is no overbought or oversold in the histogram. It is just a clear representation of the difference between 2 moving averages. In this particular case, it's the difference between 2 moving averages and then a moving average of that difference. So it's actually like 3 moving averages. So point of the matter here is there is no overbought or oversold. All I see is, holy bejesus, down, up, breakout. And there's your divergence. If the price of the asset itself made a lower low over here, and you get something that looks like that. So let's go see. There is the bottom in MACD. So you can see momentum, pretty good looking bottom. What did price do? Let's put that guy up there. And we'll smush these guys down for the time being. Next week we'll do Willie. So Willie's actually a good sort of comparison with things like RSI. Willie's actually based off the stochastic oscillator, so you'll learn lots about that next week. So here is price, and here is MACD. Oh, geez, what did I just do there? Where is it? There it is. Like that. That's what I wanted. There we go. And you can see low in price, low in MACD, lower low in price, higher low in MACD. Ooh, nice. And even this low here, that's a higher low in MACD. So this is actually what I like to call a double divergence. Boom, boom. So that's that one. That's the big one you can see there. And then there's even a littler one right in here. You can do like blue right there. So simple answer to your question, does RSI have to be oversold for this to be a bullish or bearish divergence, overbought to be bearish? And the answer is no, because actually I don't even use overbought, oversold in this analysis. If we pull up the RSI study, well, same thing. So hopefully you can see that just even this little divergence, notice this low did not make a lower low. Pretty close, but it didn't. And this bigger one, same thing. So they always say, right, if you can find 3 reasons for a trade, you can find 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But it's important that you find 3 unrelated reasons. When I look at an asset like this, what I see, of course, you learn this, in level 1, good old fibs. So trade location, swing high, swing low, reload zone. So there's one reason. In level 2, you're going to learn about things like volume profile. But when we get down below the POC, not a bad idea to be thinking about being a buyer. So there's another reason. You just learned in candlesticks, of course, the power of railroad tracks. Great looking little railroad tracks right down in there. And then, of course, further juxtaposition. We got, looks like a nice inverted head and shoulders. We also have W here. And then we also have another W here. Gee whiz. So lots of sort of candlesticky price action to justify thinking long. There is your bullish divergences in MACD. There's your bullish divergences in RSI. I'm starting to see a lot of reasons to be optimistic here. I would say probably, our 3-step setup. I like the idea of letting the divergences come in. And now is actually when you want to, all right, divergence is all confirmed. Boom. Confirmed. Confirmed. Now, we want to patiently wait for whatever the hell this W is going to look like. I don't know what it's going to look like. I got a funny feeling this looks like a head and shoulders. So shoulder, neckline, head, neckline, shoulder, breakout. So that's probably what this thing's going to look like. Who knows? I mean, it's just conjecture. But great anecdotal evidence. This asset is actually much, much stronger than what price itself is leading you to believe. So, good example. I don't know, whoever asked this question, I hope you're here. Do you feel as though that question was appropriately spoken to? Oh, we didn't get your guys to actually put the names down, so I don't know who actually answered this question. So I'm just going to have to assume that I did an awesome job and I'm the best. All right, next question. Can you explain what summer silly season is? Time frame, reason for it happening, etc. So very simply put, if you think about the Wycovian process, because really that's what capitalism is all about. Kind of like these seasonal cycles. Everything moves up, moves down on a very regular fashion. And people literally make a living in the market trading these cycles. Governments also put into place a lot of policies that encourage this behavioral pattern in assets. So what I mean by summer silly season is usually stock markets are weak in September, October, and The person who asked this question, if you can get to the level 3 course, actually what we just did was the trading seasonality. We go into this. I can give you that we did there's a doctoral dissertation that simply proves that you want to buy when it snows, sell when it goes. And lots and lots of anecdotal evidence from things like the Stock Trader's Almanac, doing statistical studies showing that you're best off, if you're going to invest your money in October, November, December, and look to take profits in April, May, June. So what we often say is that's basically the markup process, and whether it be things like the unleaded gasoline trade as a futures trader, I used to do that every year, whether it be the high-grade copper trade and housing construction into the summer building season, whether it be something like RSP contributions and tax policy and the way that they restructure companies into tax loss selling into the end of the year, and then on tax refunds and RSP contribution deadlines, the public, of course, is encouraged to buy into the spring. Doesn't really matter. This is the way our economy works. So, what do you think the odds are of making money on the long side of the market coming in when Wall Street fat cats are distributing assets and actually selling those that you bought when they mark the market down? It's actually pretty difficult. So there's a lot of people that simply say that, hey, I'm going to buy when it snows, October, November, December. Usually we get a stock market crash in October, and the public, of course, is thinking crash. But the pros are like, all right, this is our buying window. Time to start loading up. That's the way this business works. When stuff goes on sale, nobody wants to buy. And then, when the public's all excited, dog money, that stupid idiot fucking cocksucking son of a bitch, I swear the guy should be sued. I don't know why there aren't fucking class action lawsuits. But long and short of it here, you were an idiot if you went in and bought that market there through that dog money nonsense. And now they're knocking the market down and going through the markdown process. Now, the Wall Street, sort of the way the business adult world works. Yeah, of course it does, Mr. Frost. And where's that stupid fool who's like, why the fuck am I even here? I bet you he totally left the channel because he doesn't even understand that I drop these value bombs all the time. What was his name? Him Sahahahahaha. How do you pronounce that? S-A-A-H. How do you pronounce that? Aha. Anyway, this is the kind of shit that you have to learn here. And if you have to put up with an hour of me, blabbing on endlessly about how I'm so pissed off with the way the 1% fucks us over, well, so be it. And be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, ring Colleen's bell, blah, blah, blah. Point here is that actually we have a funny expression on the site, and keep in mind that most of the market moves towards that adult world. Maybe this would be a good question. Does anybody know what living conditions in New York City is like in the middle of August? Has anybody actually tried to live through the month of August in New York City? It's not really enjoyable. I can tell you that much. And it's insane, right? Because it's like that concrete heat. So it's almost like at nighttime, it actually goes up. It's like, fuck, it's so hot. It's ridiculous. Oh, there you go. Okay, good. Well, I don't mean to be a dick, but when people are like, "Why the fuck do I listen to this guy? He's an idiot." Well, obviously, I'm gonna bark. And trust me, I'm the first one to say that I'm an oddball. I'm an idiot. And so I'm right there with you, buddy. But believe it or not, there is actually some value to what I do here. All right, so continuing our story. The market, usually the adults, they head off to And actually it'd be interesting. Maybe as a good trivia, because Mr. Cat, you don't know what that life like. Where do all the adults, all the people that, make serious money on Wall Street, and they do the capitalism thing from like the middle of November through May, June. Where do they go once they've actually gone and distributed stock to the public, and they really don't have anything else to do? Where do they go? And if you don't know this, you got to learn this, right? Because actually it's stunningly cliche. In Canada, actually it'd be interesting, any Canadians here? Where do Canadians go? We have Canadians, and actually it's even back east. I suppose here on the West Coast, there is one specific reference you could make. But nobody on the YouTube knows the answer to this. Where do they go in New York once this distribution process has been done? And of course, Cheryl got it. Right on, Cheryl. Hey, Cheryl, you still got your kid? My apologies, my terrible potty mouth, but I sure hope you and your kid are still watching and learning together, because, man, I'd love to hear that you and your son. Excellent. Oh, that's music to my ears. I had such a terrible relationship with my mother. So disappointed. So, as music to my ears to hear that you and your boy can have something in common and do this together. That's beautiful. That makes my heart sing. The Hamptons! Hey, way to go! So the point here is that they all clean out of the market. And whether, you go to the Hamptons in Canada, they call it Muskoka. Back east in Ontario. I suppose out in the West Coast here, they go up to like Whistler or whatever. But the point here is that the adults, they made all their money. And they're gone. They don't participate in the market. And if anything, they wait for the fall when prices crash to come back. And then they buy all the shit that people bid up in the summertime to stupid levels. They buy it back at a discount. So that's what I mean by summer silly season. This is actually the time period now from about the middle to the end of May. This is from about then till about Labor Day weekend. This really isn't a real market. This is kind of a funny fakeezy. Let's get the kids to throw as much money as they possibly can at the market. And then when the pros come back and the market sells off in the fall like it usually does, we'll go and buy all that stock back on the cheap. So, ironically enough, though, that this is absolutely, the kids, and especially, does it make sense that a couple of crypto kids, where are most crypto kids through the summertime? Let's see if you can answer this question. If you can answer this question, then you'll understand crypto. And it's kind of funny, Cheryl, because in essence, it's heading down the same line that you're thinking. But a lot of crypto kids, where do they hang out in the summertime? Where do they hang out when they're not like being forced to be in school and stuff? Yeah, very good, Rachel. Rachel got it. Cheryl got it. But more importantly, is anybody? What's the reference I'm looking for? You were really close, Rachel. You were really close. Nobody on YouTube has a slightest idea what the fuck I'm talking about right now. Mom's Basement! Right. So, the crypto kids, they're all online. They're paying attention. They're laser beam focused. But I can tell you, most of the 1% are not. And they're up in the Hamptons enjoying their 5 martini lunches with some hot chick on their face or some young stud doing a nice little dance for them on cue. So that's what I mean by summer silly season. Does that make sense? Hard made easy? Hopefully you understand that. Very long-winded answer. Sorry about that, but hopefully you get that. All right, moving on. Hi, Brian. I moved this question for next week because I'd like to hear a fresh rant. Holy shit, I've just been ranting there for about an hour and a half. I wanted your input on this. It says, if you sell a house these days, the buyer might be a pension fund. Do you see as the 1% diversifying away from securities into real asset, leaving retail holding an extremely pumped up stock market? The image of the lava lamp comes to mind. Well, not really. What I see is the bankers every 80 years have to either get us to move to a new fiat currency, or we have to accept that they are going to basically reorganize the current fiat currency system so they can continue their bankers' tax. My hunch is that we are going through that process right now. It's exactly the same thing, and I keep showing you guys this image, but it, based on those kind of comments, I'm not getting through to you guys. But and it really sucks because it's good that TradingView's now got the correct symbol for the M2 money supply, but they wiped out all my old charts, so I have to go redo them. But I've shown you guys this image before. This is basically, I think, exactly the same place we are in the economic cycle, only this was the last. This was 80 years ago when they left the British pound as the fiat currency system and they moved to the US dollar. So as we were going through that big, this is the post-Civil War bull market, very similar like the baby boomers, post-World War II market. And then the unwinding, so this is the greed cycle, this is the fear cycle. And then coming out the other side, why did this happen? Right? And people blame this historically on, it was the GI Bill and, the end of the Second World War. Well, technically, actually, at the end of wars, there should be a recession. Because government stops spending money, industry starts winding down, there's no demand for tanks and bullets. So this shouldn't have happened. The exact opposite should have happened. So what happened here? Well, this really, folks, is nothing more than they just 10x'd assets. Or, think of it this way, in this world, the total debt, let's just use funny numbers, we'll say 1 billion. And total equity was 1 billion. Then, to move the debt off of the market's books, in this particular case, the U.S. government actually went and bought the debt. They created things like the Tennessee Valley Authority. But coming out of the Second World War, they created the Bretton Woods Agreement, which, of course, completely revalued money, what actual money was. So in this kind of scenario, it was like 1-to-1, which is doable. By the time we got to here, though, it was like they increased the money supply so much, and I don't have the exact numbers, but just roughly speaking, this number now, the debt was like 4 billion. So in essence, debt to GDP went from 1-to-1 to 4-to-1. All right, so this is debt, and this is equity. Debt, equity. This is unsustainable. So how are you going to solve the problem? Well, if we devalue the currency, then theoretically we can, if it's just a zero-sum game, then what we can do is we can move the decimal place on this 1 billion. If we devalue the currency by, say, a factor of 10, well, then theoretically we can actually make this, because keep in mind, the debt, it's sitting there. But if we devalue the currency by a factor of, let's say, 4, or 10, 10-to-1, just add a 0 onto the end. Now, the debt to equity actually is okay. Now the equity of the market is 10 billion, but the debt is only 4 billion. Yeah, that's only like a 0.25 to 1. Yeah, that's not so bad. That was a cool accounting trick. How did you do that? All I did was just add a 0 onto the end of the equity. Now, remember, equity is priced in these things. What are these things? Well, these things are dollars. Remember, the debt doesn't change. Debt's out there. You lent $100 to some guy 10 years ago. That $100 stays as $100, stays as $100. You go and devalue the currency, print a whole shitload of currency, inflate the economy by tenfold. Now, instead of debt to equity being 400% of GDP, now with all of these bazillions of new dollars floating out in the system, we took that debt to equity of 400%, which it was at $4 billion and $1 billion. Now it's gone to 0.25. Isn't that a cool counting trick? Basically a quarter. So, and this solves the debt problem very quickly and very easily. The only problem is, what does this mean? Well, what this means is that the price of everything has to go up that 10x. In essence, they are printing 10 times the amount of currency, so everything has to go up 10x just to stay the same price. That's basically what this kind of image is. Stock market's going crazy to the upside, but if you take the currency dilution out of it, actually the stock market's not doing anything. Does that make sense? It's incredible. What really sucks about all this is that the 1%, the banksters, they are making this incredibly difficult. Very, very difficult on us. Yeah, that's right, Mr. Frost. $100 Big Mac. That wouldn't be too outlandish, believe it or not. Maybe not by the end of this cycle. I could see $10 Big Mac. That wouldn't surprise me. And last cycle, the bottom, I remember, I use my Subway sandwich analogy, and I think it works pretty well. I used to buy a 6-inch tuna on cheese for like $2.60 or something like that, and it's what I had for lunch every single day. And now you go to Subway, and that sandwich now is $7, $8, $9. So you can see it's happening right in front of our eyes, and it's so sad. It doesn't have to be like this. This is Joey Diamond. You want to be angry at anybody? You be angry at Joey Diamond. This is exactly him. It's his fault, nobody else's. And the irony of it all, this is the true irony of our world, is these guys have finessed this so well, not a single finger is actually being pointed at the people that are responsible for this. That's the most incredible part about all of this. It's so depressing. And there's nothing you can do. You can't hold these people to account. As the Muslims would say, this is actually a really well-defined hell that we live in here. And we can't seem to stop this. We've been going at this for 2,000 years. And it just doesn't end. And the irony of it all is that people like Benjamin Franklin, they already knew how to solve the problem. Confederate script. It's as simple as that. You want to look at how to solve the problem? Confederate script. Well, anyway. So, it's a complicated problem that we're in right now. But at the same time, too, the irony of it all is without this complicated problem, I don't think there was any reason why Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. And you guys are all like, fucking $100,000 Bitcoin, I'm a player! Well, not really. If it costs you like $50 for a loaf of bread, it's a zero-sum game at the end. But, you guys all convince yourself that Bitcoin's going up because Bitcoin's so wonderful, but I don't think it has anything to do with that at all. Bitcoin's a pretty darn good hedge, and the irony of it all is it's just doing its job as a hedge. In essence, you can see the powers that... The irony of this is that the powers that be, last year, I think you could make the argument, 5, 10 G's for a Bitcoin, that's probably fair value. And then boom, they jump it up like 5-fold. I wouldn't be surprised if there's another 5-10x here before this is done. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. And like I said, I don't think we're done. I think we got another year of this. So specifically answering your question, what's going on here? This doesn't really have anything to do with, like you say, I'm moving this going to fresh rain, it's going to diversify away from securities. I don't think it's away from securities. They're just buying anything and everything, and anything and everything will go up that 10x to offset. They just do not want to be in cash. Cash is the worst possible thing they could be in. So we want to go and buy up massive tracts of real estate as a hedge, because those prices will go up, just like I showed you that Dow chart. Remember, and actually this isn't even the best chart to look at. What you really should be looking at is this chart, right? Everything in our society. Remember, the stock market is the ultimate leading indicator. Not the real estate market, the stock market. So is the stock market going up right now? You tell me. This is fucking ridiculous. This, no offense, but this is stupid. Asset prices are not supposed to go up tenfold in this kind of period. It's just stupidity. So what is going on? The answer, like I said, you're seeing this and you're saying, oh, gee whiz, I guess the price of housing is going up. No, it isn't. It's the value of the currency is collapsing. It's just like Bitcoin. Price of Bitcoin's not going up. It's the value of the currency behind it that you're measuring the price in is collapsing. So I hope that helps you understand. Fede, are you here? Is that you? Federico, isn't it? What do you think? Does that help you understand what I'm getting at here? I mean, it's not really the houses that are really that great. They just don't want to fucking be in cash. And can you imagine, the last thing in the world you should own right now is a U.S. government bond. That's like the last thing in the world you should be owning, because they're going to devalue the currency, and they're just basically going to devalue that bond into the ground. Fuckers. All right, number 2. I reread the FA document and have a question about value growth. How can we understand if any industry is mature or expanding, and how to define if a sector is out of favor or in favor? Actually, it's not that difficult of a answer. I mean, so, you could probably, the PAMP, you could just simply say, does Greta like the industry? If Greta likes the industry, then that's in favor right now. If Greta doesn't like the industry, then that's probably out of favor right now. The simplest thing is to think about, now you can actually make it really, really easy now, because we're heading into a growth cycle. So just look at PE ratios. So, something like, give me, it's really simple. Give me something that Greta probably doesn't like right now. It's pretty simple. Come on. You can do it. Give me something Greta doesn't like right now. Oil and burgers and smiles. Yeah, I don't even know whether she knows how to smile or not. That's a good question. But okay, let's take a look at one of the biggest oil stocks that ever existed. And what is the PE ratio? Well, actually, they're losing money right now. Oh boy, that's not good. Maybe this is a good example, maybe it isn't, but this is an example I would say that is not a growth industry. This thing should be contracting, and I might make the argument that this thing's going to be contracting for the next 17 years. Dirty, old, commodity. Greta hates it. Low valuations. Perfect example of value stock. Like it's trading 1.65 times book. It's pretty expensive relative to cash, so they're probably going to they're actually probably going to cut this dividend. There's no way that that's sustainable. So anything probably to do with the oil industry, I would say is probably more on the value side of the market than the growth side. How about things like aluminum? Nice big boring industrial stock, losing money. Look at the forward PE, 8 times earnings. Price to book, even that's still expensive. Price to cash, pretty cheap there. Looks like they've already cut their dividend. These stocks, look at something like a monthly chart here. That's not a growth business. Now, give me something that is growthy. How about, if you, there's electric cars. I suppose that's a growth industry. So, how about that PE ratio? Is that a low PE or a high PE? So there's a pretty good example. That's a growth industry, and you can see if they did not grow, then this number would actually be smaller, or actually bigger, right? But because they are growing their earnings, this forward PE is 1/6 what that number is, but still 100 times earnings. That's a ridiculously high number. All right, how about weed? So like ACB, Aurora Cannabis. I don't really like these. I don't know. You think that's a growth story? I think it was a growth story, and then I think it basically hit its peak. I think that a lot of the growth story of the pot industry is probably over. It's already been built into price. Now you're probably going to find that this just sits in a trading range for a long time. And I also might make the argument that pot is, to a certain degree, it's kind of like a commodity. I don't know whether there's really a lot of growth industry there. And also, too, like the big sort of pot-consuming states down in the States, I think they are now legalized. Like California's legalized, Colorado, I think like Oregon and Washington are. I don't know if New York State would probably be a really big one. Maybe Florida, I think, is probably also another big one. But they are kind of running out of markets. I don't know. I get the feeling that this was a really big growth industry back here, but now, not so much. But when I want to like sort of value kind of thinking, I want and then of course how about things like banks? Like good old J.P. Morgan, right? And Joey Diamond. 12 times earnings. Is that a growth stock or is that a value stock here? Hopefully you say, no, that kind of looks value-ish. Price to book. It's pretty close to book. Remember Tesla, was that anywhere near book value? Price to book, 27.5 times earnings. Fuck me. All right, not times earnings, times the value of the actual stock. The stock's only worth $23.95 a share. Isn't that interesting? Look at that. Oh, 656. I thought that said 666. So, whoever's buying this stock is going, gee whiz, this thing better grow or I'm screwed. So hopefully that's a nice simple illustration of the difference between growth and value. Like Amazon. There's another one. Is Amazon's business growing? Stock keeps pressing higher. 70 times earnings. Actually, this is a hell of a lot better than Tesla. Still, historically, we used to always say that, 35, 40 times earnings. That was very, very rich for a growth stock. So even in this kind of environment, 50 times earnings, even after their insane growth numbers are reported. So this company must still be growing like a weed. And the book value per share is only $205. So here we go, trading at 18 times book value. Like, these are very, very richly priced stocks because they're anticipating that their growth is endless. I might say that at some point, you can only stretch the rubber band so far. But nonetheless, there's no way in hell I would ever buy something like this. I hate this kind of investing. It makes me sick to my stomach. Because then the stock market crash does come and you look back and you go, why did I pay these crazy ass prices for these damn things? So hopefully that helps. The PAMP, I don't know whether you had that question answered. And really, what's in favor, what's out of favor, just ask Greta. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. Ask Klaus, what is Klaus promoting? Ask that Fink guy, Larry Fink, what is he promoting? That Chapak Smack Schnack Mac Brack Back guy, and the SPACs, right? What's he promoting? Those are probably all your growth parts of the market. Okay, I saw in one of your videos you mentioned using the 7-day on RSI. Can you explain a little more the logic behind doubling the RSI speed? The answer there, and you're going to learn this more when you do the Williams percentage R module. So why don't we do that next week? We'll speak to this question. And after you've watched the Williams percentage R tutorial, because that's where I go into explaining why I did the 7-day RSI. If you speed up RSI to 7 periods, then it's a lot faster, it's a lot crisper. It's more of like a trader's kind of tool rather than just measuring overbought, oversold, and slower trends, and it looks a lot more like the way that Williams percentage R and stochastic operates. They're very, very sensitive oscillators. But let's revisit that question, Longbow. Just ask that question again next week if after the lecture you still have questions about that, okay? Number 4, what was trading like pre-financial crisis? And what has changed from a trader's point of view post-financial crisis? Do you find strategies that worked well before the crisis no longer work after? Pre-0809 to post-0809. Thank you, Longbow. So what I would say is, that financial asset crisis, that should have been the big global reset. I believe that the financial services industry shot their wad. If you want a good sort of historical reference, lost another loan to Ditech. So if you remember Ditech.com and that guy. There was also the show The King of Cars, where this guy was running an auto dealership out of Detroit. And he was like literally making millions of dollars selling cars to people that they really couldn't afford them. And even on the show, they would joke about how a guy would be signing a lease for a car. And he would even be saying there, I can't afford these payments. And yet they still did the deal just because they were just giving money to anybody. And really, I might argue that actually at that point, that should have been the end of the United States of America. United States of America should have gone the same route that the Soviet Russia went. There should have been a massive default there. There should have been a massive wave of bankruptcies. China should have dumped all the bad bonds on the market and driven the United States into the ground. And we would be living probably in kind of like a Great Depression kind of scenario. Military strongmen around the world would be sort of dominating our world economy, and we'd be sort of marching towards that Second World War kind of scenario, how they solved the problem last century. But they didn't do that. 2008 financial crisis, I think they pulled off the crime of the century. This whole quantitative easing nonsense, it basically is a crime. The only problem is that the people that write the laws and enforce the laws are the people that perpetuated the crime. We have democratically elected politicians that stand up on the election pulpit and blatantly lie to the public. And they get away with it for literally decades now, since basically Woodrow Wilson brought the Federal Reserve Board system into power in the United States of America in 1913. So, since that event, and ironically enough, the only person, a guy like Herbert Hoover, he lived in a world prior to that, where actually politicians did have to tell the truth, where politicians were supposed to balance budgets. Politicians were supposed to protect the underlying intrinsic value of their country's capital stock. So what do you do in this situation? The solution was basically, I walked you through what I showed you there, where basically they're going to dilute the currency to the point where the relative size of that old debt seems small in comparison to the new size of the economy. And it'll mean anybody who saved their money in things like government bonds, and we're depending on things like government pensions and, you know, defined benefit plans and those kind of things to pay for their retirement, they're fucked. That is the crime. Those people, they're literally been bent over and raped repeatedly. And there's nothing you can do about it. Not only did Joey enjoy the rape, but he actually chastised his daughter for publicly acknowledging the raping and her trying to figure out a solution of how to get out of being raped by her dad. And him actually turning around and saying, your solution to stopping the rape actually is a lie and a fraud. And the irony of it all is actually the reality, the truth of it is exactly the opposite. So I don't know what you do. There's not really a heck of a lot we can do. They've gotten away with it. And yeah, I would agree with you that basically since this event, we've been living in a very bizarre world where the start of this end game was basically this post-financial crisis situation. And the end game of this, I think, plays out through the 2020s and 2030s. Does it actually have to get to the point where we all start shooting and murdering each other? It might. I mean, the sad part about it is that, these are people's livelihoods. These are people's futures. They are the standard of living. And wars often break out over this stuff. I do believe that this sixth celestial cycle event here, and, Shane told us that this was all about the consolidation of power. Well, I believe that the 1% have gotten away with it. I believe that if we lived in a different world where there weren't so many central controls, this sickness probably would have, like last century, actually isolated the population and made it a little bit easier for us to sort of like maybe kind of turn the clock back and downsize our economies, buy local, fair trade, that kind of stuff. But the Jeff Bezos, the Joey Diamonds, they want us to go exactly the opposite direction. So I think they actually kind of saw that. So the sickness was a great opportunity for them to really undermine that the local economy, the small business owner, basically make them impotent. That's what I think is part of the plan here. These are historic times, no doubt about it. I do believe that once a century we all have to go through this. I think that it's in all of our best interest just to have a little bit of things like Bitcoin on the books to try and offset the very blatant devaluation that's happening to currencies. And yeah, I would say that pre-Great Financial Crisis, the market was sort of operating in this sort of quasi-supply and demand. So, corporate welfare, social welfare actually wasn't really acceptable. You really wanted to kind of espouse that, get off your ass and get a job. Don't be in debt. Take responsibility for your actions in your life. And I think to a certain degree, by the 1% and the banksters coming along and saying, hey, we don't have to be held accountable. I think society itself has said, fuck it. If you don't have to be held accountable, I'm not going to be held accountable either. And we've just gone into this insane vortex. And frankly speaking, like I said, the only way this really should end is if we go through a massive period of just stunning murder and death, which is really sad. Like, the only way you could end the brutal, how do you say this? The Great Depression and the way, of course, the Alliance powers fucked over Germany through the armistice following the First World War. The only way you could really end that kind of conversation is you had to almost go one-up it. And how did you one-up it? 45 million people being murdered through the Second World War. Is that the one-upping? It wouldn't surprise me if this thing ended in a big war, but I guess only time will tell, eh? And, like we say, there's no point in getting into the business of predicting the future. Nobody saw any of this shit coming, so I doubt that any of us could actually predict what's going to happen. And if we actually did know what was going to happen, we would all be absolutely aghast. In fact, I bet if somebody knew what was going to happen and came and said, well, guys, this is going to happen, this, and this, we'd all go, oh, you're crazy. That would never happen. And that's probably what's going to happen. So, to answer your question, yep, wheels totally falling off the bus here. Classic economics, completely out the window. What I would just simply say, my job through all of this is just to try and get you guys to just keep thinking sanely. Don't lose rational thought through this. It's really easy. It's going to be really easy for like barstool guys just to throw up their hands in the air and go, fuck it, just mark it by. Remember, there's that Da Vinci guy about 3 or 4 months ago with Bitcoin. Technical analysis doesn't mean anything. Fuck it. Just throw your arms up and just buy. I'm telling you, folks, that's my job here. My job is just to try and keep you guys sane through this. Don't make any rash, stupid, irrational decisions through this. Market isn't going anywhere. Your number one job here is just to make damn sure that you survive this and don't go and blow yourself up making stupid sort of, like, oh my God, panic decisions. I have 2 rules of investing. Here comes one of those value bombs for you, Mr. Why the fuck am I listening to this guy? Number 1, every single decision that you make with your money, it should be based on sound principles. I'm buying because of this reason. And you should vet that out. And you should know that when you do something, a good 2/3 of the time, what you're thinking is going to happen should happen. That means that a good 1/3 of the time, the exact opposite of what you're thinking is going to happen is going to happen. So that means that rule number 2, don't ever take more than 5% risk on any one single idea for your stake or whatever it is that you work with. So then that way, if the idea is one of those 1/3 of the times, you're not going to get screwed. Be nice and diversified. Spread the jelly out. Have some Canadian dollars, have some euros, have some US dollars. Have some gold. Have some Bitcoin. Have a few stocks. How about some gold stocks? Hell, there's no reason why you can't ride on the coattails of, dog money people. Make lots of money with that. Just be well diversified. Don't take too much risk. Keep a cool head. Make sure that you have... they always say you should have good 3 months of living cost just sitting there waiting to go. So then that way, if there is some sort of short-term crisis and the bank just isn't open, you've got outlets to make sure that you can pay the bills and feed yourself. I mean, all of these things, they're all just like sound boring principles of money management. And that's, I mean, remember, I was a financial advisor for many years. So that's what I'm going to tell you people to do. I'm going to tell you the right thing to do, the boring thing to do, the smart thing to do. Trade with a plan. Don't fucking chase. If you just do that, believe it or not, 9 times out of 10, you do perfectly fine in this world. It's just these stupid fucking people like that Fink guy. I'm actually really upset at how we were supposed to have gotten rid of monopoly players from this world. They had the big antitrust shit and all that last century. Turns out it was all a joke. And Joey Diamond telling us that Bitcoin's a fraud. Fuck you. You know, this monopoly world that we live in where just a very few people are dictating what the public is thinking, and Greta's are being played like little fucking fiddles. That's the fraud in this world. And the irony of it all is that I would be willing to bet Mr. Diamond is actually one of Mr. Fink's biggest customers. And so that's why the two of them work so well together. Terrible how the public is just... You would think why isn't anybody standing up for Joe Sixpack in this world? What the fuck? What's going on? Why isn't anybody standing up saying enough is enough? It doesn't make any sense. Where did Ralph Nader go? Is Ralph Nader still alive? I don't get it. I mean, it's like nobody gives a shit anymore. So yeah, you're right. Everything has changed since this, because basically the banksters just told the world, look we're not going to be held account for breaking the law. And so the rest of the world has gone, well, fine, if you are, then fuck you. Neither am I. And, you know, just full disclosure for the YouTube audience. We have lots of TRI people that are like, I'm not paying rent. Fuck you. You want rent? Suck my dick. So, there you go. Yeah, you're right, Longbow. There's your message in a nutshell. And like I said, usually the only way that you actually correct this is you have to go through a really, really, really nasty war. And people have to live a life of war for like years. And they have to kind of forget about how good life was. And they have to just be constantly surrounded with death, and with poverty, and with starvation, and with disease, and with murder. And then after about 5-10 years of living that life, the humans finally go, look, we're just exhausted. Can we just fucking get on with life and somehow forget this? And the banksters go, perfect. So, yeah, there's your answer. Okay, number 5. What is the difference to using 0.702 fib and 0.705 fib in between the reload zones? Well, what's the difference? The difference is actually one is a pure mathematical number. Another is an error. So the idea of this 70.2 kind of thing, 70.5, is really what I wanted you thinking was statistical odds of success. And what I wanted you thinking was, if you are a baseball player and you step up to the plate and you swing the bat and you want to knock the ball out of the park, or if you're a tennis player and you swing the tennis racket and you want to just smoke the ball straight down the alley, what you really want to do is you want to try and hit the ball, whatever it is, right in the middle part of the bat, or right in the middle of the tennis racket, what they call the sweet spot. If you hit it near the edges, right? If it's baseball, you hit it near the edge, it's a foul ball. Tennis, you hit it near the edge, the racket vibrates, and it might just knock right out of your hand. And the ball goes flying 100 different directions. So really, all this is this is the midpoint of this range. There's good old Mountain Man. Of course, 0.618, we see that number repeatedly in mathematics. Super important. 0.786, of course, that's a line in the sand. It's also another important fib number. But this creates like a zone of where markets, especially if you're trading futures contracts, and they move really violently down into bottoms, ends, or ranges and then spike back out, or, spike into tops or ranges and then spike back down. What's the midpoint of this? And so that's kind of the funny part of this. 0.618 and 0.786. Well, our 50% rule, and this is a great tool, Mr. Why the fuck am I watching this video? Are you going to actually give me something that I can learn from? There's a handy little way for you to calculate the 50% rule of any range, WD GAN kind of thinking. All you do is you just take the two numbers, add them together, so 618 plus 786, and then divide that by 2. And you get 72, or 0.702. So that's a nice little handy reference. Like, let's say you had a market that was $10 at a high and $1 at a low. What's the 50% rule? WD GAN. It's going to take the two numbers, add them together, and divide by 2, and you get 5.5, 50% rule. So the point being that the midpoint between 0.618 and 0.786 is 0.702. So when I first did up these tutorials and stuff, I used this 7.705, and it was an accident, really. But it was kind of funny because I was trading crude at this point, and really, I was asked to come to the TRI audience, well, not TRI, but like crypto audience, and teach a little bit about fibs and various different things, and I wrote up some modules, and I put 7.705 in the tutorial. And what happened was I actually saw other people around the net start to teach. Oh yeah, 7.705. That's the midpoint of the there was another guy on the net, and he was using this range, and he called it OTE, or optimal trade entry, which I didn't really think was a very good description of this. That's why I called it, for my own purposes, the reload zone. I think that's a little bit better description. But it was kind of funny that I saw people on the net using 0.705, and I was like, well, they don't even really know what they're doing. They just copied my mistake. So I just left it in there. It's a fantastic little tool, like Da Vinci there last year, kind of calling themselves technicians, but not really being true technicians, just kind of like half-assing it, if you will. So it was a great little tell. I could sort of tell people that just sort of watched my videos and then were just sort of copycatting and not really knowing exactly what it is that they were actually doing, if they made reference to 0.705. And really, 0.705 is a meaningless number. It doesn't mean anything. So it's kind of that's the very real answer for you. All right, number 6. Hi, Brian. I was looking at some of your charts and realized that the colors of the candles are not the same as in my charts. I took the below example of NYSE AD in daily. After checking the settings, it seems that this is because on your side, the option color bars based on previous close is unchecked. On mine, Is there any reason why you do that? I feel strange to see the big red candles where the price moves up being red instead of green. Thanks, Remy Bricka. All right. Most important to me is I want to make sure that the volume bars are accurate color-wise based on whether the market was up or down. The problem here, though, is that like candlestick aficionados, I can't zoom in anymore. Candlestick aficionados, and especially people that study things like accumulation distribution, this is actually a very important message here. It is a huge up day, but the fact that the market opened up here and actually came down and closed down below 50% of this range is actually a distribution day. It means that, you know, the market opened up very strong initially, but it was met with a lot of sellers. Even though, hey, what the hell, market's up. So what this really is kind of saying here is, you know, and really this is the way candlestick aficionados sort of work this, is where did the market open up and then where did it finish? And so you color your candle based on the open and the close of the candle. Super important for candlestick aficionados. Let's see, what else can I add to this? Yeah. And just FYI, actually, this is a really good example where, you know, it's trader's life. I bought a long bought position through this and made fantastic money here. Then I played another bought long position here and I got stopped out on Wednesday or Thursday. So fantastic analogy. It's a trader's life. I'd be batting 50%, but I took a very small loss on this long here, but I took a huge win on this win here. I'm very profitable, but hell, I'm only running 50% accuracy. You suck, Brian. You're wrong half of the time? Why on earth would I want to follow you? So, you know, if anything, great analogy of a trader's life. With regard to the color of the candles, like I said, yeah, I mean, that's going to show as a red candle. And frankly speaking, I'd rather that show as a red candle. I'm not quite sure what the price action here is. I would assume that opened up and then closed down here. So I do want to see that as red. Having said that, you're right. You know, I mean, gee whiz, closed there. And even though it closed there the next day, shouldn't that be green? No, because the way candlesticks are measured is what they're really asking is what was the price action and what was the sentiment on the actual day itself. And for candlestick people, you know, sometimes you can actually even get like a one-day candle signal. You know, like outside downside key reversals, hugely significant to me. So understanding just the 1 day's price action, it's pretty important to candlestick people. You know, historically, I first learned about trading using bar charts. So that's what I would have seen growing up. But interestingly enough, even here, they would have painted the bar as being red bars. I used to get my bar charts in the mail, and they wouldn't even bother coloring these things. Everything would just be black and white. So, but, you know, I suppose using candle colors, you know, you could use bar charts and they would be colored red as well if they were a down day. So I don't know whether that answers your question or not. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty normal. And that's actually important information. To know that the market opened up way up here and actually closed down, meaning that this is a distribution day. And sure enough, you know, next few days we headed lower. We didn't actually stop heading down until we actually opened up lower and closed higher and painted a green day. And actually that sort of started the next wave up. So the color of these candles and where the open is relative to the close and the size of the candle itself, super valuable information. So I hope that helps answer that question. I'm not sure if it did or not. I don't like this. What's important to me though here is, when we do our volume impetus, what I need to see is like this, for example, here. I wouldn't call that a red day. I would do the impetus, I would say, color bars based on previous close. This is an up day. This is actually an up day. We opened up here, right? Closed here, opened up here, closed here. So these are bullish days on the volume. This is an up day. It is a bullish day on volume. But for actual candle aficionados, this is a distribution day. I hope that isn't too confusing for you, but that's the way that I would recommend you do it. Like for us measuring up days versus down days, use the volume bars in the volume impetus study that I taught you. Number 7, hi Brian, I heard you say, show me new high and I'll show you a buy. If I'm not mistaken, can you show me how it works? Well, there's that old expression in commodities trading. Then anytime you ever see a commodities contract trade at a new all-time high, just buy it. So that's really where that expression comes from. I wanted to show you. So if I was like looking at like the crude oil contract, for example, you can't really look at the spot contract to see that because that's just a rolling contract. But let's say, for example, like you were studying the September 2021 oil contract. Notice that this thing actually came out and there is its high. So here is a really good example where its old contract high was right there. Notice the market broke that high. Can you see that? Right there. And the adage is, show me a new high and I'll show you a buy. And it just literally went straight up after making that new contract high. Can you see that? I don't know who asked that question, but basically this concept comes from the commodities industry. Should be able to show that to you almost any commodity contract. Like maybe let's take a look at gold. So back here when this contract was waffling around, yeah, you can see. So, through here, new contract high. I think it's a buy. New contract high again. I think that's a buy. New contract. This thing just kept making new contract highs. I mean, wow, there's a real mess there. But I would say on balance, every time this thing made a new contract high, it's telling you I'm bullish. It just kept going. We could do, let's do corn. CZ1, let's go Z2021. I got Z. There we go. So the same thing here. Really good example here. So old highs on this contract. As soon as it makes a new high. Interesting too. This is a really good example. I don't know whether Ben's here or not. But we have fun with Ben on Wednesdays when we do our Crypto Top 100 show. You can see the market rallied up and did a perfect Wyckoff check off the old breakout high and continued higher. Great example. Show me a new high and I'll show you a buy. So, pretty good example. So I hope that helps. Specifically, that's to do with the commodities industry. That's where that comes from. All right, a couple more questions, then I can head off to Liam. Yep, not bad. All right. As someone who believes in the potential for good that blockchain technology and cryptocurrencies have and a technology's ability to influence population positively, it's time to see the IFPs and the manipulation all over the charts. So what you're seeing here is a good idea being corrupted by the 1%. Happens all the time in this fucking horrible human society. And I would make the argument that there is one group, and one group in particular, that is directly at fault. Thought it was fascinating. There's a line from like 18th century Europe where this guy goes touring through France or Germany or something, and he sees this estate, and he goes, "Holy shit, kings couldn't even afford this place. This must be owned by a Rothschild." So I would say, very simply put, there is a class of our society that is directly attributable to this. Sadly, they are the people that live in the Hamptons that we talk about. They are on vacation right now. When they knock the market down into the fall, after, for some reason, all of you guys are going to get fucking insanely bullish at crypto through August. Happens almost every bloody year. I fully expect to make lots of money here this summer. But I'll tell you, once the end of August comes rolling around, I'm going to start taking shit off the table and getting all scared again. And these people will come in and they will do things like knock the market down into IFPs and put in the bottoms. The good part about this is hopefully what you're seeing here, Rachel, is number one, it isn't a secret. It's not rocket science. It's just all about you have to be able to manage your emotions. And you have to be able to make rational decisions in the heat of these people actually really trying to screw with you mentally. You know, end of the world kind of talk. And they get really serious about this shit. So, I will tell you, Rachel, write this down. That anytime you ever hear about somebody actually losing their life through a financial crisis, that's the bottom. So that's how serious it gets, right? People will actually die through these things. But usually the moment lives are lost, that's usually the end of the route. So write that down. You know, Mr. Value Hunting on YouTube, this guy's a terrible shill. There's no point in watching this guy for 2 or 3 hours. He never tells you anything of value. I just gave you fucking the secret of the stock market right there. Will any of you actually respect it? I doubt it. Rachel might. You know, and let's watch how the public acts. You know, Rachel, write this down. When they're yelling, you should be what? Good. Maybe all of you in the public should write this down on YouTube page too. And when they're... You should really only be buying when they're what? Does that make you really popular? If people are talking about Bitcoin getting destroyed, Ethereum came down, I fucking said there forever. Right? If Ethereum trades back down to Mountain Man, it's the buying opportunity of a lifetime. Did many people actually step in and buy when Bitcoin hit Mountain Man, or when Ethereum hit Mountain Man there a week or two ago? I don't know. I did. I mean, fuck. Ironically enough, over the past month, I have done a lot of buying. I mean, I've been buying everything. Hey, I'm actually shocked at how much money I am spending. It's getting a little crazy. So, you know, it's your choice, Rachel. It sucks. We should, you know, as a really good lesson, understand that, you know, like the U.S. Congress, it's just like a fucking high school cafeteria. There's no difference. I was thinking about this the other day. You know, high school cafeterias, all they do is they all just get moved to junior colleges, right? And then those kids that can't move on to university, they just get funneled into some working class, life, trade, whatever. People that go on to universities, of course, they get funneled into fraternities, right? And then there's all that peer pressure around that. Student council, right? All that nonsense. And then, of course, you come out of university, you get funneled straight into the corporate boardroom kind of thing. Same thing, though. Exactly the same as fucking high school cafeteria lunch tables. Identical. So, what we saw there last March, that was a beautiful analogy of the high school cafeteria where basically the students were running the show. And remember that one guy who is, of course, probably part of the AV club, or maybe he was the guy that ran the, the part of the computer club, or, anyway, the not prom king club, let's say that, right? He stood up in Congress and said, shouldn't we debate this about, maybe this isn't really good for our future? And what did the fucking popular kids, Nancy Pelosi, of course, totally owned by the corporations and the banksters, but what did the popular kids do to that guy? And really, he was doing his job. I'm a politician. I'm sent to Washington to try and keep people in line, try and keep Washington honest. And how did they act with him? Total high school cafeteria. So that's really what this is all about, Rachel. Do you see this now? Do you get it? I hope you do. And really what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to free you. We don't, I was not one of the people that did well in the high school cafeteria environment. I couldn't give a fuck. I was never invited to that. Well, that's not true. Every once in a while I was invited to the cool kids cafeteria because maybe I said something or, banging out doubles or something. And people are like, woo, and it's got basically, it's your like moment in the spotlight. But I wasn't sort of like one of the regular cool kids kind of guy, right? And I wasn't invited to the cool kids table ever. It was sort of just like, I just did my own thing. And kind of like here on YouTube. How long have I been blabbing away here now? This is 3 hours. Have I said anything of any value? 3 fucking hours? Do I get paid for any of this? No. In fact, literally, I'm going to finish this. I'm going to throw my pants on because, of course, I'm not wearing any pants or any of this shit. I don't have to. If guys on the site aren't paying rent through this, there's no fucking way I'm wearing pants while I'm doing these videos. In fact, my junk is hanging out, and it's free flowing right now. Woohoo! Actually, now I'm jingling back and forth. Woohoo! Yeah, get some nice air in there. Hey, I didn't swear there at all. Technically, I haven't said anything wrong, have I? I know I put a tweet out there a week or two ago, which is a little bit over the top. But, like, what the hell? When everybody was freaking out and just pouring into the market, I was pleading with people to not spend your money. Don't spend your money. Now the market's broken and I'm in there buying everything. And I'm telling people, buy, 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 buy. I got other people on the site that are like, whoa, you better not buy. This looks really dangerous. And I'm going, oh, my goodness, we're in reload zones. It's supposed to look dangerous right now. Oh, well, what can you do? So there you go, Rachel. I mean, if anything, what I want you, Rachel, is I want you living outside the box. I want you to be able to see Joey Diamond for the criminal that he is. I want you to see the way that monopolistic characters blatantly manipulate societies and democratically elected politicians. They're the people that we should actually be really angry at, and yet we can't point fingers at these people. It's really frustrating. But that doesn't mean we can't see reality for what it is. So my job here for you is to just try and let you be outside the box. There's, and I remember it was so cool. There was a really cool, and actually I don't even know what this is. Classy, sassy, short set. Oh, look, Jesus. That's our society now. Do you think she has any clue about what we're talking about in this kind of conversation here? Sadly, to me, that's a person that's living inside the box. But what I wanted to see, and actually be interesting, doesn't even look like they have it anymore. Sassy. And I wonder if there's actually like a concerted effort. I don't even know how you spell Sasquatch. To actually get rid of this kind of stuff from the internet. But what I want, Rachel, I won't talk about it now. Yeah. But I want you to watch this cartoon when we're done here. Because this is actually why I'm doing this. Is I'm trying to actually free you people. To be able to see outside the box. To be able to stand outside the box. Not be a part of the box. Because it's so sad. Like Joey Diamonds, all these people. It's beautiful technology. But kind of like what I was saying earlier. I mean, Bitcoin could easily take over for the fiat currency system. Easily. The only problem is that somebody keeps making this thing insanely volatile. It doesn't have to be. It should just be sitting at the cost of production. Right? The miners get paid to validate the networks. Everybody uses the cryptocurrencies instead of fiat. Problem solved. But somebody is coming in and bidding this thing up, and of course getting all you fucking kids circle jerking to the point where you're like, Lambos! And we completely forget about the fact that we're trying to get out of this fiat currency nonsense and stop this Lambo bullshit. Right? 1 Bitcoin's supposed to be worth 1 Bitcoin. So, you're absolutely right, Rachel. And all I can do is just try my best to try and show you the real world. Show you reality. Hey, somebody threw in another fucking question here. That's not fair. I gotta get going to Liam here soon. Alright, number 9. Is the MACD histogram structure formed near level 0 more powerful than a structure formed above or below the 0 line? This is like a personal discretion question. What I'm going to say is I don't use these indicators to give me specific, this has to happen off of that line. What I'm looking for is that, kind of like Sassy, what I'm looking for is that bigger picture message. That, kind of like what, I think we had it on here earlier. Let's see if I had it. I think it was on here. The purpose of the MACD histogram is not to tell me when to buy or when to sell. Oh darn! I guess I had it on somewhere else. Anyway, here I should be able to do this pretty quickly. Templates, boom, and then we'll just get rid of all this other stuff. Boom, boom, boom. The purpose of and actually, this is a really, really good example of this. The purpose of the histogram is simply to identify when the market is actually much stronger internally than what price itself would lead you to believe. So, like I said a moment ago, and it was really cool, one of our site OGs who made a lot of money in crypto last cycle, he even pointed this out on social media when this happened. It was kind of like, you just don't see this every day, folks. If you want some sort of indication that Bitcoin's sell-off is done, you're just not gonna see any better indication. So, great analogy. Whoops, I did that backwards. Sorry. Great analogy of a bullish momentum divergence. Right. Lower highs in lower lows in price, higher lows in MACD. Now, are you going to start talking to me about bullish divergence through here? Well, yeah, it's not really in place. Are you going to wait for here, where you actually have that push through the middle part here? Okay. I'm not going to really say there's a righter or a wronger way to do this. What I see here is that's a lower low, higher low, no divergence there. Higher low, well, that's a higher low than that, so no divergence there. Also, too, what I'm going to say here is what I really want to see is I want to see definition. So what I don't like is when you get W's that look like that. And this is what I sort of say with that grade 3 English teacher. You go up to the chalkboard and you write a W like that, and she goes, nah. Really, what I'm looking for, Johnny, is I'm looking for down, up, down, breakout. So my W looks like a W. So can you see this sort of difference? This is a W that's going to make her happy. This is a W. That's really what I want to see. Is I want to see that nice, crisp, well-defined W. You know, you could say the same thing here. Down, up, down. That's pretty darn crispy W. What I say is at this point, and really you could make the same argument here, crispy, not so crispy W. But at this point now, we're going to wait for a W in price itself. So notice that was here. We come down, no W, tank lower. Okay, well, maybe we had to wait for the W. When did the W actually come in price? So that came in there. That was on that rally there. Wait for a W. Notice, oh, gee whiz, it's so close, and then puke out. But now, look at this. Down, up, down. Oh, hello. And there's your buy signal. Could you make the argument that you'd want to wait for this wider W to come in? Well, you could. Or you could say, look at, this is now gone and W'd out. There's a bit of divergence here. So I'm just going to wait. Give me some sort of W in price, and away we go. It just never came in. Also, think also, this is sort of one reason isolated out there on its own. But notice that when this wider W came in, at this point here, we've got the big honking wide MACD W's. We also have a W in price. And here now we're getting big moving average breakouts. Clearly something has changed here. Point here is, just even at this point right here, and I think this is when Jonathan put out his message. At this point here, you have to acknowledge, holy bejesus, this market is a lot stronger than what price would lead you to believe. Over here, you did get a bit of a divergence. We broke out. Now, the breakout comes here, so it's at this point that actually I need to start looking for a W. I could trade that itself, but I don't know. I think that's kind of pushing it a little. Market works up and then slams down, and now I think you're starting to get that good looking W that grade 3 English teacher wants to see. And this one even too is kind of cool because you can see really okay, yeah, I'm a W, I'm for real. That didn't actually happen until way over here. So I might even argue from like a divergence perspective, I think you got your signal there. But over here, I might argue that it didn't really fire until here, and it's now when you should actually be hunting the W's. And if I'm not mistaken, well, actually, no, this isn't really that good of an example. But there's your sort of big honking breakouts. And if I'm not mistaken, I seem to remember last summer, this is where like Bollinger and stuff started to get super uber bullish and stuff. So, maybe you can justify, actually, we might even say that your divergence confirms here. This high is 399.45, that's 443, so we've actually confirmed any kind of W in price. And believe it or not, this also is a great LJ or, for Nick out there, RJ. So, there's your trend line. Give me a W on the other side of the trend line. All right, here come the W's. Really, ironically enough, I think this is your W, even though it's kind of hard to see. Down, up, down, breakout, and big buy signal right there. So divergence is confirmed here. Really anywhere along here, just give me like there's a cute little W you could have snuck in off of right there. Point here is, breaking these trend lines, bull dives coming in, just give me a reason to get long. I mean, hell, I suppose you could argue this is a big honking head and shoulders down there. So, lots of anecdotal evidence that we're turning back up, and of course you got your nice bullish divergences all in here. And I like the idea that you really want that W to be really well defined. Maybe hold off on believing these really sharp W's that don't really look like solid W's. Just wait for the really well defined W. And believe it or not, you might end up having to buy a little bit higher in price, but usually the signal is like, woohoo! So, would it have been that big of a deal where you long from, 9,600 or you're long from 12,000 if you're sitting 50, 60 G's? That's a difference of $2,000-3,000. It's not that big of a difference. Anyway, hopefully that helps. If it didn't, ask again. We can always look at it again next week. So, does it have to go through the zero line? I know a lot of this is going to be really a question of your own actually mining the data, and what do you personally like the best? I know there are some people at TRI, especially like day traders and stuff, that are trading these MACD histograms off of like hourly charts. They love that zero line as just yet a further validation. And guys like Sjord, they really like that MACD through the zero line just as a good validation that, it's confirmed. It's just more anecdotal evidence that the market's moving in my way. I, however, through the M's and W's, what I'm really trying to find is that message from the market that, hey, I'm actually a little stronger or a little weaker than what you think I am based on price. Following that message, then I'm looking for the market structure signal to get in. So, ironically enough, it's just it. In trading, there is no right or wrong. It's really just a question of what works best for you individually. What's going to get you to the point where when you see your edge, you get in there and you act without reservation. All right, hope that helps. The PAMP, if it didn't, throw it again at me next week. And, also too, when you hear Sjord on Monday, he loves using MACD. Notice that they do a lot of what we want is confluence. So it's not just like one reason. It's I've got the MACD going through the zero line. I've got RSI putting in a W, breaking out on a divergence. I've got, W's in price. I've got reload zones. I've got volume profile levels. I've got gaps. I've got trend lines. I've got horizontal support and resistance. That's what we ultimately want to find. So, if you just keep working away with me, if I can get you through all three levels of the class, then the course material, you're going to understand that confluence idea a lot more. Right now, you're just starting, and you got a long way to go. All right, so totally helps. Thanks. Good. All right, last question, and then I got to head off to Liam. I literally have to head right out the door. I can't believe it. I don't know why I've talked for 3 hours here today, but what the hell. Hope you guys got some value out of all this. Is trading a good protection against all the money printing? Trading, not necessarily, no. Can just buying Bitcoin be at least somewhat enough to counteract it? Yeah, I would say yes. In fact, make no mistake about it. The trading of the shit coins has vastly outperformed buy and hold. But that's just because I'm, I buy and then I force myself to sell halves on doubles. Then I force myself to reload, and I'm just constantly in there grinding the account. So is that you? I mean, if you go away on vacation and you missed a buy window, could you have totally fucked yourself? because you were trying to, unload at the top and then you have to reload at the bottom and you've just missed the trade completely. Yeah, that does happen a lot. So it's not really in your best interest to just be trading to try and offset the effects of inflation. And full disclosure, I have a wallet, cold storage. I never touch it, never look at it, never load it. And it is Liam's Bitcoins. And they just sit there on Liam's wallet. I never look at it. I never touch it. And it is simply my protection if the whole fucking system collapses and all of the guarantees that Liam was supposed to have in place for his funding fall apart because these governments can't live up to their promises. Imagine that happening, huh? I've got that Bitcoin there, and if that does happen and the fucking Western civilization collapses, my hunch is those Bitcoins are going to be very, very valuable. But that is my Bitcoin hedge. And I like that as an idea. Grab some coin. I mean, it's awfully expensive now. I mean, I thankfully I started that, long time ago. So, it's, I mean, I suppose, it's 30, 40,000 right now. I could see Bitcoin go up like maybe 5x, maybe 10x from these levels through this chaos peak that I think's coming down here this next year or two. But I don't know. That's not something I would bet on. Like I said, the hedge is there just in case. And then, we've got the Trex account and that fund, and that's trading the shit coins. And then we've got Sjord over there on DeFi and his Luna fund. They're having fun. I mean, we're very, very well diversified. But just me personally, in case the wheels completely fall off the bus for our society, I wanted to have that hedge in there. And they're literally Liam's coins. They're not my coins. And speaking of which, I have to get the hell out of here and head off to him soon. So I think I'm going to leave it at that. So I don't know whether it's a good idea coming in and starting that Bitcoin hedge plan now. I think we're actually in about the 8th or 9th inning of this event, which means that we're coming to some sort of crazy catalyst peak here. And then we should go through a couple years of just total shit. So I'd actually make the argument that this is just sort of the eye of the storm right now. This is why the corn is so damn expensive. So I don't know whether it's really a good idea to start your hedge program now. If anything, it was good to hear a little bit of crying there over the past month or so. I did like that. And, things like Ethereum did get down into Mountain Man. The rule is once we are at reload zones, you can start your nanny nibbling. But really, nanny nibbles, they can ideally want to start, in earnest, serious at like 78.6. Mountain Man's okay to come in and buy at, but I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of all this, your value is sort of like 88.6 corrections. That's usually what happens with Bitcoin. Now, I don't know where the hell the top is on this cycle. The scuttlebutt, the conjecture is that we still have one more big honkin' move in the end of the fall, the beginning of the winter here. I do like that thinking just because I think people have conned themselves into believing that COVID is over. And I think that we're going to be at kind of like they have to shut the whole fucking economy right back down. And it's almost like all of the stimulus, all of the Fed printing, everything that you've seen that's happened over the past year and a half is completely meaningless, and they have to do it all over again and act from scratch. Which means that we probably have like another one of these fucking year and a half insanities ahead of us, where we dip down violently and then we spike up insanely. And what I'm really worried about is I think that the worst of this is the middle of 2022, 2023, and it might actually be kind of like martial law. And it might be really, unfortunately, 2013, beautiful bull.
2014, shit show. 2017, beautiful bowl. 2018, shit show. I think this is exactly the same scenario. 2021, beautiful bull with a nice big fuck you in the middle of it, which is exactly the same as 2013. But 2022, I think is going to be a shit show. So I'm actually, and I've said this publicly, into that blow-off top event into the end of the year, I'm actually going to be trying to liquidate and actually take a lot of profits. If we do get this sort of willy woo $300,000 Bitcoin, I'm going to be ringing the register fucking hard. And I might even just sort of, even sort of go on hiatus for a year or two and just try and lay low. Because I got a funny feeling 2022, 2023, oh boy. It's going to be a tough time period. But anyway, we'll get through it. PMA for the win. If I'm really lucky, I can sneak my way over to Hawaii and start working on that not-for-profit organization, and we'll just slowly try and rebuild this world from a position of strength over there in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. That'd be kind of fun. Anyway, wish me luck. All right, everybody, I'm going to leave it at that. Have yourselves a great rest of your day. PMA for the win. Wish me luck with Liam. I love when I get those best wishes from you guys. And actually, it seems to be working. So give me lots of positive karma as I go and try and give my boy a fun afternoon. Looks like we'll have a nice day to go drive up in the mountains. So wish me luck. Other than that, I suppose we will see all of you guys Wednesday for our Crypto Top 100 show. It's always a lot of fun. Derek and Nick and Ben, a great little team we've got going. And, if you feel like it, pop on the site. Actually, tomorrow I think there's supposed to be a really big site update announcement from Sjord. So be prepared. Actually, we might even start opening up the screener subscription model. And I got a funny feeling TRI is going to make a lot of money selling key reversal screeners. Because did I show you guys? I mean, I literally have been waiting, I would say 20 solid years to get this tool in my back pocket and actually be able to market this to market. Outside downside key reversal of a market that's substantially overdone, and look at what price is done. I mean, that's the shit right there. I mean, you don't get any beautifuler shit than that. So my work is almost done. But I do need people like you, Innie, to help me set that damn thing up in Hawaii. It's a not-for-profit organization. We're probably going to have to raise a good couple $1,000,000. I'll come in, no doubt about it. I'm going to come in for a few hundred, but can't raise all of the money myself. I got to leave Liam a little bit of money to pay for his lifestyle. But man, I would love to be able to get that Hawaiian retreat off the ground. Anyway, that's a project I'm working on. So, all right, have yourselves a great afternoon, evening, morning, whatever it is around the world. PMA for the win. If anything, lean on Brian to try and help you see outside the box. Try not to get too sucked into the box. And, of course, remember what your number one job is, right? Our number one job, of course, is to make sure that we can come back and play the game again tomorrow. So, all the best. Have yourselves a great day. And the only thing left for Brian to say at this point is a big bye for now.